All right, everyone, we're here at Small Data SF, and look who are with me, Colin, CEO of Omni. Colin, long time due. I'm excited to have you on the Ravit show, and excited to chat about AI, BI, and a lot more.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Colin, first of all, great panel discussion this morning. I'm going to obviously ask a lot of questions around that, but just for audience, would you like to tell us what's happening at Omni and a little bit of introduction as well?
Yeah, sure. So Colin, CEO, one of the co-founders at Omni. We're building a BI platform that can do everything. So embedded analytics, AI, spreadsheeting, of course, pivot tables, SQL. We're really trying to unify everything that all the BI tools that you see do into one place.
Totally. I'm also kind of curious to know from your, obviously you talk to a lot of customers, a lot of enterprise leaders out there. Everyone's talking about AI and analytics. Where do you see BI value being created and not just the hype?
So I think there's a lot of real stuff underneath it.
Right.
I think the challenge is that it's not a side project. So it's hard because a lot of people want to get started on AI.
Right.
And so they're picking up a tool and sitting it next to maybe their core stack.
Right.
The reality is the things that you want to do in natural language are actually deeply connected to all the other things that you're doing. Mm-hmm. They want your semantic layer, they want your business logic.
Right.
When you write a query in natural language, sometimes you want to follow up in a spreadsheet. Sometimes you want to visualize it and put it on a dashboard.
Exactly.
And so I think the best use cases are where it's deeply embedded in the other things that you're doing.
Yep.
But I do think it's starting to sort of bleed into more and more use cases. Like this dream that a sales rep can show up to a BI tool, ask a question about their high-risk deals and get an answer.
Yep.
It's actually happening. So it's becoming real.
Okay, that's fantastic. Great insights there. I'm kind of I've heard you at the panel discussion today. So you were talking about the tension between the AI's flexibility and BI's need for governance.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about that? How is Omni kind of solving that problem?
So if you're going to approach natural language for doing analytics, you really have a pretty hard fork between doing things where the AI is writing SQL,
right,
or doing AI where it's writing to a semantic layer and going down to the data warehouse.
Right.
It's a pretty important decision that you have to make up front. Mm-hmm. On the SQL side of the house, the thing that's amazing about it is you can hook up your database and you can start doing it with like hundreds of these little tiny companies immediately.
Yes.
And you can get real results. So in some ways, it feels really satisfying. The challenge there is that when it's writing SQL, it's very hard for an end user to refine the result set to follow up to understand what's happening.
Right.
So it comes with a follow-up cost that is really challenging.
Yep.
On the other side of the world, if you have an AI that's working through a semantic layer, you're more constrained. You can only go through things that exist, there's structure.
Exactly.
But what it means is that we can actually tie things back to a UI. We can understand what filters are being applied. We can understand the metrics being used. And so I think you have this very, very important decision up front about how you want to structure things in the back end, and talking our own book, obviously, but we think semantic layers are pretty important to actually doing these things well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and we've seen so many different use cases that the enterprise companies have come up with while they're using the semantic layer.
Yep.
Thanks for that, Colin. Tell us why you choose to build your own modeling layer at Omni as compared to,
Just grabbing something off the shelf.
Exactly.
So I think the challenge is just that the semantic layer is so integral to all of these experiences that you're either waiting on a sort of generalized semantic layer to go build all of these things, or you have to go implement them yourself. So
Exactly.
I spent 8 years at Looker before at Omni.
Yep.
And the reason Looker was so successful was not just the semantic layer itself. Like if you took the semantic layer out of Looker, maybe it could have been well adopted, but it's actually the coupling between the UI, the semantic layer, the workflow for building it.
Yep.
And so we kind of felt that it was necessary to own a lot of that experience. Now it's interesting because Snowflake, Databricks, DBT are all starting to build semantic layers for AI.
Right.
And there is a dream that we'll have some universal semantic layer that will connect to all of the different tools. The challenge is just for now, none of them are actually good enough to do those things.
Exactly.
Or sort of widely embedded enough. So we're going to watch. Like, I don't need to own the semantic layer.
Yeah.
I need to own the workflow for building it.
Totally.
And so we'll see where it goes. Like certainly they're pouring resource at it,
Yep.
but it's got some development that still needs to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. In semantic layer, we'll see when it kind of becomes universal. But I think for now, it is very important for the workflow.
Yep.
You all made a recent announcement around acquiring Explo.
Yes.
Kind of curious to know about that. How does that fit into the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I think the original message that I gave you is like we're trying to do everything.
Yes.
And embedded analytics is a piece of everything.
Exactly.
We already have an embedded product. They had
Nice.
an embedded product that people loved. And we just thought it made sense to sort of bring in a lot of their expertise, bring in their customers,
Right.
attach them to the other things that we're doing that are interesting.
Yep.
I think what's interesting about the data landscape is there are so many products that exist out there. Like it's the most crowded Magic Quad and G2 and
Yep.
there's hundreds of these companies.
Yep.
And our goal is to create more unification and bring a lot of these things together. And so we want to be aggressive about understanding what other tools exist. Can we bring them and set them alongside us? And again, like, can we do everything even better?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
this was an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Also, Colin, since we are here at Small Data SF, and we talk about making things simpler here. So, how do you think we are kind of making? How can we actually make AI simpler for BI? What are your thoughts?
I'm beating this up, but it's really semantic layers. Like
Love it. Yeah.
making sense of data is really two pieces. You need to get a data model where things fit together. That's just a classic semantic layer.
Exactly.
The other one is you need to actually explain how your business works. I give this example over and over again because I actually work as sort of the core data analyst for our company.
Yeah.
So I get to use the product
I
a
love
lot.
it. Yeah.
You need to teach it what words mean. So we have Salesforce data. We've got all of this sort of sales analytics. Deals are open or closed. It's when we lose a deal, we close it. When we win a deal, we close it.
Exactly.
A lot of people show up to the BI tool and say, how many deals have we closed this week? It turns
yeah.
out when they say that, they don't actually mean how many Salesforce records have we closed.
Exactly.
They mean how many deals have we won.
Yes.
And so to actually implement AI well, you need a data model that explains how these things fit together. You also need to do the work to map how humans talk
So true.
to data in the database.
So true.
So when someone says closed, they mean closed in one.
Yeah. Yes.
And again, like, maybe you'll get lucky and the AI will get these things right. It does happen sometimes, like these things are magic. But you need to now do this work to model your data, and you need to do this work to now model your language.
Yeah.
But once you do that, it's pretty magical what happens. So
True.
we work on a fiscal calendar. When I walk up to our AI and say, how much business have we closed this quarter? It knows that we're using fiscal quarters.
Fiscal quarters.
And again, like,
Right.
these are small little optimizations, but as you build up tens or hundreds of these,
Right.
you start having a text box that can actually answer questions the way a human would.
Yeah, I think you gave a very good example here. It's also about how the AI can adapt to what we're kind of talking, and these are like smaller optimizations which
Yep.
needs to be taken care of, but people don't think about it, and enterprise leaders kind of sometimes feel that it should be,
And I think the thing that I've sort of learned is this is actually the reason that data is hard for people.
Exactly.
Because when someone jumps into a tool and they start filtering on a date and it doesn't look the way that they expect, and it's because of some hidden subtlety in the data or
Exactly.
a column name or something like that.
Right.
Really what the user is trying to communicate is, I've got the data that I need, but I don't understand how language maps to that data.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, modeling data for AI actually helps bridge the self-service gap that a lot of people have already experienced.
Yes.
That was really sort of a language problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. These are fantastic insights, Colin. One last question for you is, if agents are operating our dashboard sometimes in the future, will they still want to export it to Excel? Or how does that
I don't
work?
think Excel's going anywhere. I think when it comes down to it, AI is going to solve a lot of these problems,
Right.
but we still need the classic tools underneath it. Like, AI is not going to replace dashboards. It might replace some of them, but sometimes you want to go back to the exact same charts.
I'm happy someone said
Yes,
it.
like
really.
you want filters that look
Yes.
the same way.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine navigating the internet and having every page be entirely blank. Like, that's not how you'd want to shop on Amazon. That's not how you'd want to book a flight.
Exactly.
We want UI sometimes.
So
AI
true.
can help us navigate those things, but it's not replacing everything for everyone anytime soon.
Yeah, I love it. One last question for you, and I promise this is the last one. If folks who are wanting to use Omni, which is the best place to do that, and where can they even, obviously reach out
Yep,
to you?
omni.co.
Okay.
So come to our website. any form that you fill out there will find its way to us.
Fantastic. And people can follow you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
I guess you're most approachable. But once again, thanks for doing this. Great panel discussion. Great discussion
Of course.
here. Colin, congratulations on all the growth.
Thank you.
I've closely seen Omni grow for years now, like
there.
almost 3 years.
You saw us
now.
before we were out there. So.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
I love it. Thank you very
Cool.
much for
Thanks
doing
for having
this.
me.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.